everybody. It's me, Timmy Flyersguys, and welcome to the first episode of the Flyersguys Top 10. This is not the first episode of the series. This is the first episode of 2026. I hope each and every one of you had a wonderful holiday back in 2025. We are on the year 2026. And in today's episode, I'm going to be counting down. This is going to be done in different parts. Nickelodeon, let's do a brief history of the TV channel Nickelodeon before we get into this video. Nickelodeon was a network for kids. Launched in 1979. Before it was Nickelodeon, it was called Pinwheel. So I wasn't around too much in the 80s, so I don't know much about 80s Nickelodeon, but I do remember the first time I watched Nickelodeon was in 1990. We're not going to talk about the before years of Nickelodeon here. Because in the before years, it was all just a bunch of reruns of Dennis the Menace, Flipper, Yogi Bear, Inspector Gadget, and Underdog. In this first part, I'll be counting down the top 10 the top 10 Nickelodeon shows that I watched from 1991 to 1993. This will be the first part in my Nickelodeon retrospective countdown, where I count down the top 10 Nickelodeon shows. This is part 1 about the top 10 Nickelodeon shows I watched. This is 1991 through 1993. Without further ado, let's get into the countdown. Okay. At number 10, starting off the countdown. At number 10, the TV show that made Melissa Joan Hart a household name. And that show was Clarissa Explains It All. Premiered on Nickelodeon around 1991, this show had a very unique feel to it. Most Nickelodeon shows did not have a show that was for younger, a show that was for the female demographic. In 1991, they came with a new show called Clarissa Explains It All. A show that aired on Nickelodeon, but ended up on the Saturday night block known as Snick in 1992. Clarissa Explains It All is a very unique show, a lot of creativity. But this show was just a really fun show to watch. Even I watched it, and I kind of thought this show was actually a pretty good show. So number 10, Clarissa Explains It All. And I used to watch this show when it came on TV, so not a bad start for the countdown. And number 9, Nick Arcade. This show was very unique. Nick Arcade, it was like a game show about playing arcade games, but it wasn't just about arcade games. They would ask you questions. They would ask you questions about all sorts of subjects. And whoever gets the object of a game, players would play games they would get a certain amount of questions right. And if they did, and if the game, and every round they would play a certain arcade game. Nick Arcade actually had an episode where they were playing the arcade prototype version of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And in that episode, we saw Melissa Joan Hart from Flyersguys explains it all as one of the guests on Nick Arcade as a contestant on Nick Arcade. Nick Arcade is a very unique TV show. And not only that, it had a lot of segments where it looked like it was in 3D. Which this show was a very cool show, so at number 9, Nick Arcade. At number 8, one of the messiest game shows of all time, hosted by the legendary Mark Summers. Double Dare was a show. Double Dare was a show about kids would answer questions, and he also would run at one of the messiest obstacles of all time in Double Dare. This game show was a unique game show that had many different iterations, such as Family Double Dare, which was the second reincarnation of Double Dare. But Double Dare was the one that started it all. So at number 8, Double Dare. At number 7, Hey Dude. Yeah, this show is okay, but the best thing about this show would have to be the theme song. The theme song of this show was very catchy. Yes, I watched this show a lot. As a kid, I didn't really understand what was going on, but I still watched it anyway. This show was about kids that lived on a dude ranch. They would help out on a dude ranch. They would teach kids about riding horses, etc. All kinds of cowboy stuff. And this show was alright. The only real thing I liked about the show was the theme song. So that's why I'm putting this on the countdown. I wasn't really a big fan of this show. So number 8, number 7, Hey Dude. Let's see here. First explains a little. Number 8, Nick Arcade. Now, first explains a little was number 10. Nick Arcade was number 9. Nick Arcade was number 9. Well, let's see here. So, Nick Arcade was number 9. Double Dare was number 8. Number 7 was Hey Dude. Okay, at the number 7, Hey Dude. Now, we get into our number 6 pick of the countdown. And at number 6, what would you do? A spin-off series to the very popular show, Double Dare. What would you do? With the show where they would pick somebody from the audience, and they give them a dare, and they ask them, what would you do? Now, this show was very entertaining. It was funny. And if kids completed that certain dare, they would go over to the prize box that they had in their pickup. Prize. Some boxes had prizes. Some boxes threw pies. But this show is very entertaining, very funny. It was kind of like the precursor to the TV show Jackass, but in the kids' type of way. So number 6 will be choosing, yeah, we're getting to our top 5 picks. And at number 5, Salute Your Shorts. Salute Your Shorts was a TV show about kids that were staying at a camp or camp on the llama. This show was entertaining. It had a lot of funny segments, a lot of funny characters. This was a funny show for kids. And if you notice, this was the show that was one of the second shows that Danny Kersey was in. First, he was in the show Different Strokes. Then after that, he was in the second Terminator movie. I think this might have been before Terminator. I'm not sure. Well, Terminator was before this. Well, this show was funny. Some of the best things, this show really made me laugh. There were some great, iconic episodes of this show. The show, sadly, only lasted for about 2 seasons. Honestly, this show had potential to have a very long run. I just don't know why the show didn't stick around. I revisited this show back in the summer of 2025, and I really liked it. I thought this was a great show. And as a kid, I enjoyed it. Many iconic characters, such as Bobby Butnick, played by David Huxley, River Prankster, Guy West's Horse Trouble. You had Naughty Lips, the comic relief character. You had Red Pinsky, the tomboy. You had Michael, the new guy, who was fucked over and replaced by another character played by Giovanni Ribisi. And we also have the very friendly but clueless character as well. And you also had the the wacky camp counselor known as Ugg. He was a very funny guy, and he made the show what it was. So number 5, Salute Your Shorts. Number 4, the very wacky, very absurd, very strange, the very popular show, Ren and Stimpy. I caught wind of this show late. Well, first time I saw this show, I thought this was the weirdest show ever. But honestly, this show was funny. Honestly, this show, in a way, kind of was a unique show. And it wasn't your typical Nicktoon. It was one of the first ever Nicktoons on Nickelodeon. It was a show about the misadventures of a cat who wasn't very smart, and a chihuahua named Ren, who was psychotic, crazy, and oftentimes delusional. But in a way, this show was entertaining. It had everything. It had comedy. It had random moments of hilarity. And this show was one of the most disgusting shows of all time. But kids loved it. I loved it. I enjoyed it. And a lot of jokes in this show I did not get until I got older. This show is a weird show, but we couldn't get enough of it. So at number 4, Ren and Stimpy. At number 3, Doug. Doug was one of the first ever Nicktoons that premiered on Nickelodeon. Doug was a show about a 11-year-old named Doug. It was a show about Doug. It was a show about a kid that lived in Bluffington. The show about Doug, his dog for a shop, his best friend Skeeter, and the love of his life, Patty Mayonnaise. This show had a lot of great moments. This show is unique, and it was a show that thought outside of the box. It was like your typical Nicktoon. Yes, there was a lot of wacky adventures on this show, but this show taught us a lot of great life lessons. And this show is an inspiration to many. Jim Jenkins, the creator of the show, was an absolute genius. And when this show premiered, I watched this show every day after school, and I could not get enough of it. I enjoyed every minute of this show, and I always remember the good times, sitting on my seats at my couch watching this show every Wednesday afternoon on Nickelodeon. So at number 3, Doug. At number 2, Rugrats. Another great Nicktoon show that premiered on Nickelodeon in 1991. I remember as a kid, the first time I saw this show. I really liked this show when I was a kid. I was hooked on this show the first time I saw it. But I couldn't get enough of it. This was a show this was it. The Rugrats didn't just become a TV show. It wasn't just a TV show. Back in the early 90s, this show had such a cult following from 1991 all the way up to 2000. This show was iconic. It became one of the most popular Nicktoons on Nickelodeon from 1991 to 2000. The show had an impressive run, and we couldn't get enough of it. And I couldn't get enough of it. I love this show. I enjoyed this show. And when this show came on, I knew it was going to be a good day. Because the Rugrats wasn't just a TV show. It was a phenomenon. One of my favorite shows when I was a kid. So at number 2, Rugrats. And my number 1, pick up a countdown. You can't go wrong with this for number 1. And at number 1, The Adventures of Pete and Pete. This show started out as shorts on a TV show. It was a show that would show short segments of episodes back in 1991. And then in 93, this became a TV show. And let me tell you, this show was great. It was a show about 2 brothers with the same name, Pete and Pete. It was also about their father, their mother, their mother's rental plate, Their sidekick Artie, and Little Pete's Tattoo Virginia. You also have the character of Ellen Hagel, who was older Pete's love interest. They started off as friends, and they had a will they, won't they type relationship in the show. Knowing that this show was a unique show, it set itself away from all the other shows on Nickelodeon. It was a show that was unique. It was a show that stood out from all the Nickelodeon shows. This show premiered in 1993. It started out as a TV show on Nickelodeon, but it became a show on Saturday night. Nickelodeon Black, known as Snitch. The show became one of my favorite shows. And for the first time I saw this TV show, I'm like, nah, there's no way this show is gonna catch on. So I started to love this show so much. I'll watch episodes of the show. And then I just sporadically. But once I got older, once I was 20 years old, I wanted to watch this show again. And I watched it again, and I loved it. I remember watching episodes of this on YouTube. And then all of a sudden, during the first season of Heat and Pete on DVD around 2007. And I enjoyed it. I loved it. It was such a great show. The show was iconic. It was one of the greatest shows ever made. And a lot of us are wondering if there will ever be a sequel series to this TV show. If we could have a sequel series to iCarly, why can't we have a sequel series to Adventures of Heat and Pete? If we got a Rocko's Modern Life movie, then why can't we have a sequel series of Heat and Pete? We were supposed to give a Heat and Pete movie in 2000, but instead, 1999, but instead we got Snow Day. Maybe one day there will be Adventures of Heat and Pete movie. Okay, this ends another countdown here on the Flyersguys Top 10. I enjoyed counting down the top 10 TV shows I watched. I watched on Nickelodeon from 1991 to 1993. In my next episode, I'm going to be counting down the top 10 Nickelodeon shows I watched from 1994, from 1994 to 1997. That's where I'll be counting down my top 10 Nickelodeon shows I watched from 1994 to 1997. And then after that, I'll probably be counting down my top 10 favorite Nickelodeon shows I watched from 1999, 1998 to 2005. And that'll be it. That'll be the last part of the video. Guys, thank you for joining me here on this week's episode. I'm going to be continuing to do more episodes like this here in the year 2026. Guys, thank you for joining me. Have a great week, and I'll see you guys next time.
Shh.